Hello everyone, Dan Nance back here with another segment of my life as a harness trainer, a Chicago harness racing trainer. Let me get a little drink here so we can start this video. In this segment I'm going to talk about the night in 1988 at Maywood Park that I yanked Dave the Hands Magee off of 2 horses I had him down to drive on a Saturday night. But before I get into the story, let me fill you in a little bit about things. Now don't get me wrong, Dave Magee and he drove a lot of winners for me over the years. He drove Eclipse in '86 for me and Ray Howard, who owned half the horse with us. You know, and he drove Pirate Laura in '88. At the same time this incident took place, he was driving Pirate Laura, who was a 2-year-old Illinois bred filly of the year. And of course Dave Magee drove all kind of horses in my stable, won a lot of races. And you know, Dave and I always got along great, always did, still do. But a little incident took place back in '88. That's kind of funny. You can think about it now, but back then it wasn't too funny. And he was driving another horse in the race, Pirate Rip. I had in the race that I'm going to discuss in a minute. Pirate Rip was owned by Ray Howard back then in '88, and Pirate Rip was one of the top 2-year-olds that Davey was driving several times for the stable back in '87. And it was Eclipse back in '86 when Davey was driving Eclipse. One night, Ray Howard, who's my owner and one of my best friends, the late Ray Howard, back in '86 when we were in the free-for-all, moving Eclipse up into the free-for-all ranks, Davey started driving him in the free-for-alls. One night, Ray Howard heard that Frank Calabrese, you know Frank, big thoroughbred owner now, but back then Frank had harness horses. You know, he had a lot of money, tons of cash, still does probably. But he heard that Calabrese would give his driver a $500 tip every time he won with Pocono Lobel, a horse that he owned and raced in those free-for-alls. So Ray Howard says to me one night, he goes, listen, you tell Dave Magee, buddy, he's got $500 every time he wins with Eclipse for us, buddy. $500 right in his pocket. You tell Davey that. So I went and I said, I'm not going to tell him that. I go, well, just give it to him when he wins. You don't tell somebody ahead of time. So act like you're buying them or something. We don't do that kind of stuff. We tip our drivers well, but we don't tell them we're going to tip them or anything like that. So anyway, when Davey was winning with Eclipse, he won a couple races in the free-for-all with Eclipse for us. He got a $500 tip both times. And he always got tips from the Nance Racing Stable and my owners, like I discussed before. You know, maybe not $500, but $100, $200, $300. Always got tips. So, you know, that's the way it was. But one night in 1988, I was racing Pirate Rip, who was a 3-year-old at the time, and we were at Maywood Park. It was in the fall of the year, and Pirate Rip was on a win streak. He was going for his 6th straight win this night at Maywood Park, and he drew the 3-hole. He was racing in $27,000 claimers I had him in at that time. So he was in on a Friday night, had the 3-hole. The night before, I was up in the clubhouse sitting with Ray and them, and Ray tells me that you know, some of the people all these people he knew up there, and those horsemen and, you know, people, other owners. He told me, he said, listen, you know what I heard? I heard that Bobby Knott was a trainer in Chicago. You know, he was kind of a cocky kind of guy, you know, thought he was a hot shot. Bobby won a lot of races. He knew how to train. He was a good trainer, you know, but he was a little cocky and stuff like that, old Bobby Knott. Wonder whatever happened to him. But he had this horse, Lockport Ideal, Bobby Knott did. Well, Ray tells me, listen, and Lockport had the rail that night, that Friday night, that Rip had the 3-hole. Ray tells me, he says, I was told that Bobby Knott put Dave under orders to take the front end, you know, don't let nobody go. He's going down the highway with the 1 horse. Lockport Ideal with his horse. Not let nobody go. So I said to Ray, really? I go, that horse can't leave that well. He can't outleave Pirate Rip. You know, Rip was winning every race on the front end. Get to the top, doesn't matter what, you know, coming out of 5-hole, 6-hole, 7-hole, 1-hole, 2-hole. He won 5 straight. He's going for a 6th straight win, had the 3-hole. So I tell Ray, who cares what he tells what's going on. So he's got the rail. The horse is not that good of a lever. Besides that, you know, Rip's as sharp as a tack. All right, so that was that. So now the night comes up. Night of the race comes up, and the race goes off. Sure enough, Davy leaves off the wood with Lockport Ideal, and Paisley was driving Pirate Rip that night for me. So Pirate Rip leaves the gate like he always does. He's going to go to the top. Lockport Ideal. Davy gasses all he can gas off the wood. But the thing about it is, he kept Rip parked. He parked Rip going to the quarter. But under the whip, I'm telling you, Davy was whipping and slashing. When have you ever seen Dave the Hands Magee ever whip a horse as hard as he can whip one? Never have I ever seen it. As God is my witness. Now, Davy might not remember this night because, you know, he's getting old now. He's 61, you know, but maybe he doesn't have the memory that I have because I remember everything, okay? And maybe he does remember. But if he was reminded of this race that night. Anyway, he leaves off the... He don't only leave with the horse. He's whipping and slashing this horse, Lockport Ideal, to do everything he can do to keep the horse parked. Pirate Rip. Is there something wrong with a two-hole trip, Davy? I'm thinking, then, when I'm thinking, okay, I know what I heard last night in the grandstand. Bobby Knott put Dave Magee under orders. Take the lead. Don't let Pirate Rip go at all costs, whatever. So now Rip is parked. He can't get to the top because Davy's whipping and slashing this horse. We're parked a mile. Is there something wrong with a two-hole trip, Davy? Behind the horse that just won 5 straight? You take the two-hole trip, and if you can get out in the stretch and beat him, you beat him. Huh? Right? You either get first or second money. But he kept Rip parked the whole mile. Rip runs parked the mile, the whole mile, doesn't even die off, winds up getting beat a length and a half, finishes 4th. Lockport Ideal winds up 6th. 5th or 6th, I don't know, but behind Rip after Rip was parked a mile like that. So, race ends, right? I don't win. Davy don't win. I get 4th. He's behind me somewhere. Now the horses go around by the paddock over there, the old paddock it made with the white building, you know, over there in the club turn. I walk out there by the horse, talk to Paisley, meet the horses as they're pulling the numbers off these horses. Well, I see Davy getting off of Lockport Ideal, hanging the lines up. So I see Davy, and I walk by him. I go, hey, Davy. I go, Dave. I go, listen, I know you were under orders from Bobby Knott, but you can tell Bobby Knott that Payback is going to be a mother, okay? No excuse for that. Payback is going to be a mother. You can tell Bobby Knott I said that. Davy looks at me. You know, everybody thinks, oh, Davy's a real sweet, nice little soft-spoken guy, Davy. Davy's one of the greatest guys around. Okay, greatest guy for the business, class act, the whole 9 yards. But he's also got an attitude, too, when he wants to have one. Okay? He's not as sweet as people think he is. Okay? When he wants to be. He can get a little cocky, too. I've seen it. But anyway, after I tell Davy this, hey, I know you were under orders from Bobby not to drive his horse like that, but, you know, Payback's, you tell Bobby Payback's... Nothing against Davy. I had nothing against Davy because if he was under orders, I guess he was under orders. Well, the thing about it is, though, Davy looks at me and he goes, I do what I want to do. Nobody tells me what to do. Really? I looked at Davy and I go, oh, really, Davy? Really? Oh, okay. No problem, Davy. No problem. And I walk away. Now I walk back into the paddock because I had another horse racing, next race or race after coming up. So I walk back into the paddock office there. I'm thinking I'm steaming a little bit now because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. He just got a little smart ass with me, a little cocky with me. And he's driving, he did this to Ray Howard's horse? Under the whip, slashing? When do you ever see Davy Magee slashing and whipping a horse, abusing a horse? And he did this? And especially to Ray Howard, a guy that was giving him $500 tips for Eclipse and tipping him like hell for Pirate Laura, and he's driving Pirate Laura this year for me, and all the other horses he drove and won, and he's going to get cocky like that with me and say, nobody tells me what to do, I do what I want to do. Oh, okay, no problem, Davey, no problem. So I walk into the paddock office and I grab the phone, paddock judge Frank Panino. What are you doing? I go, I'm calling the stewards. So I pick the phone up, I call the stewards. Stewards answer, yeah, stewards. I go, yeah, this is Dan Nance. I go, I got 3 horses in tomorrow night. I got Dave Magee down on 2 of them. I want to make a driver change right now. I don't care if you fine me, whatever you have to do. If I fine me for late driver change. And they go, whoa, why? Well, what's the problem? I go, I want to make a driver change on the 2 horses he's down to drive on tomorrow night, Saturday night, okay? Because he got smart with me. He got cocky with me. He goes and he parks my horse the mile under the whip, all right? Under the whip, whipping and slashing, which is fine. Racing is racing, okay? But then when I asked him a question, he just got cocky with me and smart aleck with me. That's what I told the stewards. Okay, so Tim Schmidt was, I think it was, on the phone. Him or Milburn. And I go, so I want to make a driver change. I don't want him driving my 2 horses tomorrow night. I got 3 and he's down on 2. Oh, okay, Dan. Who do you want to put up? I go, I got El Barrel and Charlie RL. Put Bussy up on both of them. And they go, all right, we'll make the driver change. We'll put Bussy up on those 2 horses. And I go, so what's the deal? How much is the fine going to be? Nah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. You're not going to get fined. You called us early enough or something like that. I go, oh, okay, fine. So now I make the driver change to Bussy. El Barrel, 25 claimer. Charlie RL, 30 claimer, 30 to 40 claimer, whatever. And I got Bussy. I went with Bussy, the bus man. I forget who the other horse was in. I think Peregrine or somebody I had in. Somebody else was driving him, Laverne or somebody. But I make the driver change. And then the sweet thing about it is, the next night, I'm going to look like a fool, to the whole public, racing fans, other horsemen. I'm going to look like a fool. I just yanked Dave Magee off 2 of my horses. I'm going to look like an idiot if they don't win or be second. Davey, Hans Magee, top driver, leading driver back then, still, for decades, He's the man. You don't take Davey Magee off your horses. Well, I did. Because when someone smarts off to me like that and treats me like that, and I didn't say nothing to him, didn't get in the beef with him, nothing, just let it go. Just walk in, take him off. Take him off. I don't need nobody. I could put anybody to drive my horses because they're well-trained, pal. Huh? How do you like those? No, how do you like that? That's right. It's exactly right. I'll put anybody up to drive it when they're good, and they're sound, and they're classified. Alright? Yeah, you want the leading drivers, and I always use the leading drivers. But don't ever think that I need you, okay? You need me, okay? Because when you drive my stock, you know they're ready and good, and trained well, and taken care of well, alright? So I was hot about it. Didn't get in no confrontation with him, didn't say nothing, just took him off. So that night, it was sweet though, because Bussy won with Charlie RL, and he finished second, got beat that much without Barrow. So, did I really need the hands? Huh? And did I look like a fool taking them off my horses, the leading driver? Nope. Nope. And then I go up to the grandstand after the races that night, Saturday night, after I'm done racing. I'm up there sitting with Ray. Some guy comes up to me, I can't even remember who it was. One of these guys, everybody knows you, Comes up and goes, oh man, Dan, man, I gotta hand it to you, buddy. What balls you have pulling Dave Magee off of your 2 horses. And then they go out and one wins and the other one just gets beat. You gotta have the balls. Everybody's talking about it. They heard the driver changes up in the grandstand. Everybody's talking about it. That you took Dave Magee off your 2 horses. I go, well, you know what? Hey, I did it because I was hot. The guy goes out, I don't know, I hear crap of Bobby Knott telling him he's putting Dave Magee under orders, and then the way Dave drove the horse, it looked like he was under orders, because I never seen a guy, Dave Magee, whip and slash to the quarter. He would have taken a 2-hole trip. But it happened. And then when I asked him, and I said, hey, tell Bobby Knott, because I figured he got smarted off with me. Said, nobody tells me what to do. I'm Dave Magee. He didn't say I'm Dave Magee, but that's more or less what he's saying. I'm Dave Magee. Nobody tells me what to do. I do what I want to do. Yeah, well, I'm Dan Nance, and I do what I want to do. How's that? Huh? I don't play. But after that was all over, and that incident was all over, Davey drove for me after that, many times, many winners. Not a problem, no problem. It's just something that happens in the old business of Chicago harness racing. Those are some of the things that go on that the public and those racing fans and all the grandstand goofs sitting up in the grandstand don't know about. All kind of things take place down there. And I got another little story I could share with you, but I'm not going to do it in this segment. I'm going to wait till the next segment. And I'm going to tell you about another funny little incident that happened one night at Maywood Park. And this concerns Eclipse and Ritmo. The night that they clashed together at Maywood Park in the free-for-all. Mickey Rodriguez was training Ritmo at the time. And I was, of course, training Eclipse. And we were in the free-for-all that night at Maywood. And Ritmo was 3-5, and Eclipse was 20-1. And of course, as I mentioned in the other videos, Eclipse won that night and paid $42. Davey got his $500 tip, blah, 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 blah. But after, or going to the winner's circle to get the picture, and then afterwards, a nice little story took place about what happened. And it's funny, somewhat funny, serious though, very serious at the time. So that's going to be another little good story that you guys might want to tune into to hear about what happened that night with my life as a Chicago harness racing trainer. So until the next segment, take care everyone. Good racing.